dogs, loose dogs too.
Okay, so you were on the ocean in a Liberty ship. You remember the name because you told me the name before.
Mir, I got a picture of it.
The Mir. And this is in 52.
General Mir.
General Mir. Okay, so this was in... That's a German general, isn't it?
No.
No?
Well, Liberty ships were built here in the United States.
Okay.
To,
Transport. Yeah, transport.
Transport
Troops.
weapons to England.
Yeah. So you're on this ship. So when you left dock, you were in Hamburg, right? Frankfurt. Bremen. You were in Bremen when you left dock.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
They have a big harbor.
I thought you lived in Frankfurt, Dad. Or was it Hamburg?
I lived in Hamburg.
In Hamburg. Well, isn't Hamburg stationed by the ocean?
Yeah.
Okay.
The biggest harbor.
So didn't you go from where you grew up to Hamburg? And I thought you left from Hamburg, but you left from Bremen.
Bremen.
So you went back to where you lived, nearby, right?
No, it was all the way from Schleswig-Holstein. That's the northern part. This was on the...
I think you remember me telling me this one a long time ago. So did you live in Bremen then too?
No.
You went there to leave.
I had to pay by train, public transportation to Bremen.
From Hamburg.
From Hamburg to Bremen.
Okay.
Bremerhaven.
And so was it just you that went from Hamburg to Bremen then? And where was your mom at? Wasn't she in Hamburg?
Yeah, she lived in Hamburg.
So she stayed at the place that you had there,
Yes.
that you built from bricks.
Well, some of it was wood.
Wood. Okay. From a bombed house.
Well, there were a lot of bombed houses. We had the choice, and that was free.
Right. Okay. So she was living there with your brother, or just her?
Just here at the Hannelore.
Hannelore, your sister-in-law?
She was
Your stepsister.
my brother's and was his child.
Oh, okay. Okay. Your brother Ernst had a child, and that was Hannelore.
Hannelore.
Okay, so she would have been your niece, wouldn't she?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so...
And she raised her. She might be still alive today.
Well, how old was Hannelore?
She was, my age.
Teenage?
Very old.
Teenage or younger? She must have been
Teenage.
younger. Oh, she was teenage. Okay. Your brother had a child by her. How much older was your brother? What was your brother's name again?
Ernst.
Ernst. Okay.
Ernst Schultz.
And so how much older was your brother?
I don't know when he was born. He was much older, by 20 years.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's significant. Yeah. So he had a kid that was your age. Yeah. That's yeah. And he drove a tank, you said, right?
Yes.
Okay.
He was an auto mechanic.
He was an auto mechanic for the tank. Okay, so he wasn't a tank driver, but he rode the tank crew as a mechanic. Okay, right?
But in the war now, I don't know what took place then. In 45. He left. Yeah, he got found a place. The Russians didn't come.
Well, fortunate for him.
Yeah.
They probably would have took him, but okay. So you went from Bremen to New York on this Liberty ship, and it took you 10 days, you said, right? And you said you ran into some bad weather, right?
Yeah.
But you didn't get seasick.
No. But then somebody told me, and he knows the Marines warships, and was a warship.
Right.
Transported.
Yeah.
So,
That. What did he tell you, Dad?
Who?
The guy who told you that it was a warship. It was in the Marines. You just
no, he wasn't in the Marines. He was in the U.S. In the German.
Navy.
He was a tank driver and a mechanic.
Your brother.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm talking about something else, Dad. You said we were talking about the fact that you didn't get sick, but you ran into some storms.
Yes.
So you were talking about, did you meet somebody on the ship that you talked to about the storms and knew the ship?
Well, they were all English, Americans.
On the ship.
Yeah.
So you didn't travel with any other immigrants? This is just...
I was alone.
Oh.
I mean, there were other people, yes.
No Germans, though?
Yeah.
Oh, other Germans.
The Polish people drove us out of our home, have to leave everything. And then...
Was Bremen still German, or was that occupied by Americans
they were occupied by Americans.
when you left?
Yeah.
So they gave you transport to leave Germany and go to America.
Yes.
Okay. And so
I had to stay in one place for a week, get all the papers and stuff like that.
I was going to say, who set that up for you then?
Government.
Oh.
The American government.
So Bremen was occupied by America, and they were allowing Germans to immigrate to America.
By the thousands.
So how did you find out that you could immigrate to America in Bremen if you were in Hamburg?
Well, there was a council.
A council.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I tell you, the Rough Sea, there was just like mountains.
oh really?
They go down and up.
Wow.
Even the crew some of them got sick.
Oh really? It was that bad?
Yeah,
So that's crossing the Atlantic.
yeah.
Yeah. Huh. And that was what time of year?
That was in
Spring, wasn't it?
spring, yeah.
Yeah. So, because you landed wasn't it in March, April, or May? I forget which one it was.
Well, the war ended in 45.
In May.
And,
But you were there, you didn't leave until 52, right?
yeah,
So you were in Germany for 7 years.
yeah. And that worked.
Okay. So, when you landed in New York, how did you know where to get around if you didn't speak any English and you had to get to the train station? Who gave you? Where did you go to get the money?
They picked me up,
Who picked you up?
Baumann's.
The Baumann's in New York.
Yeah.
Oh,
The Baumann's in Sherburne Avenue
on where?
in St. Paul. Sherburne Avenue.
Oh, that was after you got off the train, though, Dad.
Yeah.
I'm talking about when you got on the train in New York. When you landed on the ship in New York, you didn't speak any English.
They had me put plants on my chest.
Signs?
They knew that I couldn't speak in English. What was the time? What is the time? That's all I knew in English.
Okay. So You had to wear like an identification or a
Yeah,
like a name tag, or was it signs?
Well, they took me to the railway station,
Who did? The government.
the government.
Okay, so they took you from the ship to the railroad station. Then did they pay? When did they pay you your $6?
Right there when I got off the ship.
Oh, okay. So here's your money, and then so when you got to the train station, your ticket was already paid for by the Baumanns. How did you know how to get your ticket to go to St. Paul?
Well, you have to have a sponsor first.
Yeah.
And they knew about it.
So the sponsor paid for your ticket, but how did you, when you got to, okay, so you're wearing signs, you only know one phrase in English, and you get to the train station. How do you know where to get your ticket?
I don't know what the process was.
Did they have a place for immigrants to go to that came off the ship in the train station? That you had a holding area or something? Or
They people that met me.
people met you there?
Hmm.
Was there an interpreter there then?
Well, they couldn't speak any
In German?
German.
But what people met you in the train station, Dad? Was it somebody that worked for the government or somebody that represented the Baumanns?
The Bowmans.
Oh, so you had somebody that knew the Baumanns that met you at the train
The
station.
sponsor.
Oh, but they themselves didn't meet you in the train station.
Well, from New York to St. Paul.
You met them in St. Paul, but who met you in New York to give you the money for the
There
ticket?
was somebody who was there
Okay.
when I got off the ship.
Somebody they knew.
They knew everything.
Okay, so you went with them. Did they buy your ticket then, or did they already have your ticket for you?
I don't know.
Okay, so you get on the train, and you're traveling. How many days on the train to St. Paul? Do you remember?
It wasn't very long.
Like
a couple of days.
couple days. Okay, so you had meals on the train.
No, I had to take money from the $6.
Oh, so your meals were not paid for
No,
on the train.
no.
Oh, but they served food on the train.
They must have.
So how much money did you have when you got on the St. Paul out of the $6
Yeah, I only spent $1.
on the train?
Yeah.
Oh wow, well that's pretty frugal, Dad. So you come into St. Paul, you got $5 now, and you're meeting the Baumanns in St. Paul, right?
Hmm.
And it's at I'm sorry, you told me that you had to wait out in the ocean because the ship couldn't dock at night,
No.
so you had to stay out in the harbor
Hmm.
until you could dock it in the daylight, in the
Mhm.
morning. So was it like first light then that you got docked in the morning?
Yeah, pretty early. It was light.
Yeah, okay. So East Coast in the spring, was there snow then or no? Okay, New York. Did you you didn't see New York at all? You went directly from the ship to the train station.
Yes.
Okay, and it was daytime.
Yes.
So you boarded the train during the day, and so when you got into St. Paul, was it? Do you remember if it was night or day?
It was day.
It was daytime. Okay. So you meet the Baumanns. How many? Who met you? Was it Mrs. Baumann? I forget her name.
Emma Baumann.
Emma.
Well, she wasn't there, but her daughter
Her daughter
and
was.
her daughter, they came to the car
Okay.
and they met me.
So
And
then,
they took me right to the Baumanns.
they lived in St. Paul.
Yeah.
The Baumanns. I thought the Baumanns lived in Douglas, though, Dad.
Oh no.
Who lives in Douglas?
That's another. I don't know how the relationship is.
That was a Baumann that lived in Douglas, though, right?
No.
What was her name? I forget. She passed away shortly after Mom passed away. She was 92.
Yeah, she was in
The nursing home.
nursing home.
In Stewartville. Yeah, what was her?
Not Stewartville. It was in Pine Island.
Oh, Pine Island. Okay, yeah, you're right. So she has a different. She wasn't a Bauman. I thought her name was like Edith or something. What was her? What was,
Well, that I don't know how the Schultzes work.
okay, so the Baumans are relatives, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, cousins or
Her name, maiden name,
was it?
was the Schultz.
Oh, it was okay. So they were relatives of our family that met you in St. Paul, and so you lived with them in St. Paul.
Yeah, so quite a few years.
Was
4
mom
years.
was mom working in St. Paul too then?
Mom?
Yeah, Maryland
No,
I thought-
she lived there
in Douglas.
at one time, but then they moved to 8th Avenue Southeast, I think, in Rochester.
Oh, okay. So, wasn't mom working a Sioux line up in the cities though?
Yeah, then she moved to the cities, and then we found a job there with the Sioux Line.
Okay. So how long did mom work for Sioux Line?
Yeah,
How long though? Do you remember?
oh, quite a while.
Yeah. Key punch.
Keep on operator.
Okay. So, so you're at the Baumans in St. Paul. What was the address in St. Paul?
1178, I guess. Sherburne Avenue.
1178 Sherburne Avenue. Okay.
I must have some others.
I'm sure you do, Dad. So, how long did you live with the Baumans? How long did you have to be sponsored?
4 years.
4 years. And then, so after 4 years, did you have to have a green card then? How were you defined as
I
an?
didn't
as
have
this-
any identification.
You didn't have any identification. They just let you come into the country, and they didn't give you any.
No,
Like nowadays, you have to have a green card
no,
or a visa.
I didn't.
You didn't have a visa, did you? So, but you had papers that you got in New York that says you're here. You're okay to be here.
Hmm.
So,
Actually, the government.
huh?
Must have been the government.
Yeah, they gave you papers.
They,
Did
they did everything.
they don't issue a social security number until you're a citizen, though, right? Or how did that work?
5 years.
After 5 years, you could apply for citizenship. I thought it was 7.
No, it's 5 years.
After 5 years.
Hmm.
So when did you become a citizen?
Well, I'm 57.
Oh, because now I think it's 7 years, Dad. You have to wait 7 before you can get naturalized. So, did you take the test when you were living with the Baumans in St. Paul to become a citizen?
Hmm.
Yeah. So did you go to like the capital to do that, or where did you go?
The government.
Yeah. Do you,
The capital.
it was at the Capitol
Yeah.
on Kellogg. Do you remember? It was the Capitol building in St. Paul.
Yeah, that's the building.
Big building. Yeah.
Right downtown.
Yeah. And how long was the test? Do you remember how long you had was it a hard test for you to take, or
No, I know I had to learn English.
yeah, so you did really well. And so you're working in St. Paul, I take it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what were you working at in St. Paul? Was that when you worked for Northwest?
Well, no, for Kaplan Paper Company.
The Kaplan Paper Company.
It's right on Harvard Street, right over the Mississippi.
Okay. And what did you do there?
Well, punch out cardboards.
Die cutting?
Yeah, with some kind of hammer. And he was Jewish. But he treated me all right.
Oh, Dad, I thought that all happened in Germany. The guy that you worked for in Germany that had you made boxes.
No,
Well, wasn't there a Jewish person in Germany that you worked for?
no.
Well, how did I get all this all? Okay, so we're getting timelines all mixed up. I'm glad I'm covering this now. So you worked in Germany. You worked. So the Jewish person that you worked for here, you worked for like a year, right?
Yeah,
And
for 90 cents an hour.
90 cents an hour is pretty good pay back
Then I
then.
got a dime raise.
Yeah, okay, I remember you telling me that. I didn't know that was when you were here. Okay, so you were making something with cardboard,
Mm-hmm.
and then where did you go after that?
Then I went to Northwest Airlines.
Where?
Northwest Airlines.
Or Northwest? And what did you do at Northwest?
Well, it was equipment service.
So a mechanic,
Mhm.
and you worked there 5 years. I think Mom said
It's about right.
5 years. So until
So,
57 that you became a citizen. You said.
yeah.
So, when you became a citizen, you and Mom were already married, and you bought the house, and you had Judy.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the start of your family. Well, you must have bought the house in what, 55 then, or was it in 57?
57.
You bought it in 57. Was that after Judy was born or before?
In the house, well,
That was in
I was
Rochester.
on 8th Avenue.
Oh, oh, so you lived with Mom up in the cities after you got married? Where did you get married?
In Rochester.
In Rochester.
Mhm.
So,
if you go by there every day, we go down.
okay, Dad, I'm confused. So, you and Mom met at this party, right? For the family.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, she gave me her phone number. And one day I just called her
Okay.
to go out.
Sure. And the okay. So you and Mom were living in the cities but apart. So she lived in the cities and worked for Soo Line, and you lived at the Baughmans and was working for Northwest.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so how did you go from being single and living apart in the cities to being married and in Rochester?
Well, because Marilyn was living with her parents.
Oh, okay. So the Thielbars, Lillian and Ralph lived up in St. Paul.
They lived in Rochester.
Okay, but Dad, she worked at Soo Line in the cities.
Yes,
So she drove up to the cities, or she lived up in the cities?
she lived in the cities.
So did she live in Minneapolis or St. Paul?
Minneapolis.
She lived in Minneapolis. So did you have a car then?
No, it was a while. Yeah, I don't know when. In 53, I bought 53 Chevrolet Bel Air.
Somebody gave you the first car that you had, which was in 53.
Mm-hmm.
So you were working for Northwest in 53, and you're living in the cities, right? Am I right about this, or are you living in Rochester in 53?
No, I lived in Rochester.
When-
57.
Okay, so
They built the guy George Alexander
contracted
yeah,
to build the house.
right,
And he was somebody that gave you the money for the house.
yes.
Pretty fortunate for you to have so many people that helped you out, Dad.
Yeah, they were pretty nice.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering when did you move from St. Paul to Rochester?
Yeah, it must have been when he built a house for me.
Because you and Mom got married in 54 or 55? Or was it 53? It's June 16th. What year? 53?
No, that's what. But
So was it before? It must have been 52.
no, 52 I came to the United States.
Okay. How long
Oh,
after?
there's this suitcase downstairs. There's a lot of stuff in there, and then in the bank is some paper too.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about some other time, Dad.
Yeah, okay.